Okay, we're going to get started again. How was it for you yesterday? Great. Very, very full day, wasn't it? Yeah. And so, congratulations on showing up again today. Okay. Before I get started, do you mind if I just pray for my words not to be in the forefront, but God's words instead? Is that okay? Our loving Father in heaven, I thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to come together and to explore of who you created us, the awesomeness of each person, the uniqueness of each person, and of how you want them to be able to express who you designed them to be in the first place. So Lord, I just ask that you work with each person, you have your Holy Spirit to impress upon people the things that they need to know today, and that you are just here giving me the words that you would like me to speak. So thank you, Lord, for what you are going to do. In Jesus' name I thank you. Amen. Okay, so this is the second to last one called the 5 love languages. And this particular one changed my life. So I'm hoping that it's going to be impactful for you as well. The reason why it changed my life was I grew up thinking that my mom didn't love me because she wasn't speaking my love language. I learned later on. One of the things that I know about the love languages is that whatever is your love language will give you, if people are speaking it to you, you will feel so loved and cared about. If they're doing the exact opposite, you will not feel loved at all. In fact, it will hurt you more than if it wasn't your love language. And so, as I mentioned yesterday, God also has the way that he speaks to us is through our love language. And the way that we find out that about that is by doing this type of test that we're doing today. Growing up, because my love language, I'm actually bilingual, only in love languages, my first love language is physical touch, and I score equally on words of affirmation. So what might be different if you were growing up and your love language is physical touch? What would be the opposite? Abusive touch? The wooden spoon, the belt, all that type of stuff, with no tenderness touching. And so that told me that I wasn't loved. What would be the opposite of words of affirmation? Sorry? Criticism. You cannot do anything right in that person's eyes. Those types of things. And so I grew up with my mom being very strict mom, but it was almost like her getting her frustration out rather than just being disciplined. And her words were always very critical. I could never do anything right, and I was the black sheep of the kids, so I understand that. And what did I do before I was healed is I married someone who is identical, of course, to my mother. And I didn't feel loved in my marriage either because he wasn't physically abusive, verbally very, very abusive. I realized later on. And he just was not a touchy-feely person. So I felt that I wasn't loved. And it wasn't until I read the book, The 5 Love Languages, by Gary Chapman, and he actually has 5 of them out. When I read that, light bulb went on, and I realized that, did any of you grow up with $1.49 day Tuesday? Okay, so I grew up with going shopping every Tuesday with my mother. She would buy me Barbie doll clothes or like whatever I wanted, something, small. It was always because I didn't come from a poor family and I didn't come from a rich family. I came from a middle class family. So we would go shopping, and that was the way that she expressed her love, I discovered later on. Because her love language was gifts, and that's the way that she was expressing her love when I was desperate for my love language to be dealt with. So as a marriage counselor, that's one of the first things I do with my couples is I run them through. Let's find out what your love language is, so that way you can express your love to the other person in a way that they understand it. And rather than me coming in here and speaking Spanish, and you guys are going, what did she say? You want to be speaking the same language that, like for here in Canada, English, of course. So yeah, that's the premise behind the 5 love languages. So let's get started. Do you bask in the love that feels vibrant and alive? Or do you long to be watered and cared for? And this was the key to my healing of my grief. Because I realized, and it took me a bit, and took my kids pushing me to be able to finally see why I was feeling like I was dying inside. My late husband, Raven, he passed away during COVID time. And what was happening with touch in COVID time? It was not happening. People wanted to stay 6 feet away from you. They didn't want to hug you. And I had been for 24 years of lots of hugs and kisses every single solitary day to all of a sudden zip. And I realized of how starved I was for it because of being my major love language. And it wasn't until both my daughter and my stepdaughter said, you got to go back to Mexico. And with the Latino culture, they're very touchy. And so from me going there, I could have just stayed in my room, but I made a decision to not sit there and wallow. It took me 2 months, but I made that decision. And I reached out into the community. I actually formed a Facebook group of other people so I could meet people. And that's when my heart started to heal. Because the Mexicans, if you are friends with them, you are friends with family, you are friends with their employees, you are friends with anyone that they know. Their friends are your friends. Mi casa, si casa, right? And so I made friends with a girl who actually had 4 restaurants, and we became instant friends. And she was a very huggy person, which of course that's part of part of the culture. And so not only did all of her kids hug me every time they saw me, but all of her staff hugged me whenever they saw me. Her band, whenever they saw me, they would come off the stage and come and give me a hug. And it just slowly built up my tank, my love tank. And to the place where I was happy once again. And my pain was subsiding. So that's how important I know the love languages are. And of course, coming back, I filled my tank right up. So that way when I came back to Canada, which is not as huggy of a country, but all of you guys know, I am a huggy person, right? And so I love that part about church, is I get the chance to hug people on a day-to-day basis, because in the community, sometimes I can't do that. And so yeah, if your love language is not being fulfilled, you will feel like you're withering up like a dried out rose. So all of us blossom when we feel loved, and we wither when we're not feeling loved. When you're not feeling loved, differences become magnified. And that's why in a marriage, I always do this test. because it's one of the fastest ways of getting rid of the differences. Because under the fights and the things, usually what's happening underneath that is, I'm not feeling loved. So if I can teach people how to love each other in a way that they understand, then they can they can consciously speak it to the other person. The home becomes a battleground rather than a haven if a person is not feeling loved. With empty love tanks, couples tend to argue and withdraw. And so what did I learn between my kid's dad, my first husband, and 14 years later, before I married Raven? What do you think I learned? I learned about myself. I learned what I needed to have in a relationship in order to feel loved and cared about. And so I was very conscious that that was a key component. That if a person was not a huggy person, it was not going to work for me. I didn't want to make that mistake again of not feeling loved in a marriage. So this is the initial 5 love language book that Gary Chapman came out with, and that was the one that I first initially read. He came out with 5 other versions of it. He came out with the one for singles, he came out with the one for men, and this particular workshop and the testing is based on the men's edition. Why would I use the men's edition? Any idea? Because I had every version. Any idea why I might use the men's edition rather than the regular edition? Okay, I'll tell you the reason why. Is because he spells it out word for word. Okay. He spells out how to show it in each of the love languages rather than leaving it to just being intuitive, because women are more intuitive and men often, not always. There are a lot of men that are intuitive because they've developed that skill either through having a lot of sisters or from just being around people. And I believe that God does that with each person, helps them to recognize things at from an intuition place, which is really, as far as I'm concerned, is the Holy Spirit telling you. But the men's edition, yeah, I recommend it to every man because this you know what to get him for a present, right?
He doesn't like gifts.
Okay. Okay, that's good. There's also one for children, and then there's, so that's 1, 2, 3. There's the couples one, and then there's also God's love language to us. So yeah, they're all awesome books. So let's talk about what a love language is, or what they are. There's 5 of them. There's words of affirmation. There's quality time. There's receiving gifts. There's acts of service. And there's, of course, physical touch. And I'm going to talk about each one of them as we go through here. Words of affirmation are encouraging words. Their whole intent is to inspire courage. They're kind words, both in tone and in softness. So I could say, I'm just thinking of a sentence I can say. That dress that you've got on, it's nice. How loved would you feel? You wouldn't, right? Or I could say, you know what, that dress looks awesome on you. you're going to feel it more. So it's our tone, and it's the choice of words that we use that can be words of affirmation. They're humble words. They're requests, not demands. So all of you who scored high in choleric yesterday, be conscious of this one. Because a choleric person is very much a person who's like, they make excellent supervisors. But you got to be cautious of requesting rather than demanding. And that all comes down to tone. It comes down to the words you choose. It's also verbal compliments. They're motivating words compared to nagging words. Anyone want to give an example of what might be the difference between a motivating and a nagging? Brian looks like he's about to he's about to burst. Okay. How about yourself, Dean? No? Okay. Okay, so I'll tell you the difference between motivating and nagging is a motivating word, and a lot of it comes back to intent. If I want to motivate a person, I'm coming from a space of love. I'm coming from a space of wanting that person to be the ultimate best, rather than trying to get them to do something that I want them to do. Okay. It's also motivating a person gives them the right to say no. Whereas when we are nagging someone, we're basically, they don't have a choice, or they may feel like they don't have a choice, which is a boundary issue. To express words of affirmation, compliment something specific you have seen. As in, I love that red top that you're wearing because it just gives, it gives so much brightness and color into your face when you're wearing it. It looks beautiful on you. Post-it notes are also another way that you can express your love through words of affirmation. You can buy a book on quotations for ideas. Leaving an encouraging note on a whiteboard or using a sidewalk chalk. We used to always have a small whiteboard in our place where we would, the type of whiteboard that you write down your grocery list as you're doing it, but there was always space on the other side, like on the other half of it, to write something encouraging or to write something special or, even just have a great day. You can leave a note in a steamed up mirror. I used to love that because if I went in to have a shower after Raven had had a shower, and if he had got so that the mirror didn't have any steam in it, I would get a steam because there was usually a love note there on the mirror that doesn't disappear until you wipe it off. You can write in the sand. And this was Raven writing to me, "I love you." You can create a poster. This was one that I did, was what each letter of the name stood for. I did that for my mom once too. I took her name and I did mother, and I did for each letter a word to let her know that I was caring about her. You can create an audio tape of songs or read a story into it. You can write a poem. And this poem is called Donna Marie. It was written for me back in, it doesn't say there, but it was probably in the late 1990s. Encouraging email or sending a card in the mail are also ways you can do it. You can learn to say I love you in another language. This person is doing it in sign language. You can do it in other languages as well. So now let's talk about quality time. Quality time has got two dialects. It has, and is about giving someone your undivided attention. So what would that look like to not give someone your undivided attention? Let's have some examples of not giving someone your undivided attention. Yeah, looking away when they're speaking, not listening. We'll have a session after this, right? It's also, like texting, or I don't know if you've ever seen a couple sitting at a restaurant and they're both texting. And I'm going like, you might as well, why are you doing this? There's a restaurant in Santa Maria where I stay, in fact, where I'm moving to, it's 2 doors away from it. And they have a sign up and it says, no, we don't have Wi-Fi. We want you to be, how do they phrase it? No, they say we don't have Wi-Fi because we want you to get to know each other better. Yeah. Of course, it was in Spanish, but I translated it. Yeah. So the two different types of dialects of quality time is quality conversation and quality activities. Quality conversation is listening and sharing of yourself, and quality activities is experiencing togetherness. And I once had a couple who came to me who were having marriage issues, and I put them through the test, and they both came out with quality time. And they're going, I don't think so. We are definitely not on the same page. And then when we explored it further, we've discovered that one was quality conversation and one was quality activities. So how do you think I helped them to be able to express their love language together? Yeah. Yeah, you can do the opposite, but I wanted them to utilize their love languages with each other. So what I did is I got them to go for a walk, quality activity, and to discuss quality conversation. Discuss what their day or the day before, of things that had been interesting to them, or to discuss what they're seeing as they're walking. So I got them to use both of them to help them have the quality time with each other. So quality conversation, you need to develop listening skills, and I think we talked about that a moment ago. Maintaining eye contact, which you brought up, Natalie, when spouse is talking. Don't listen and do something else at the same time. And even if you're on the phone with someone, people can pick up if you're doing something else while you're talking to them. Especially a counselor who listens intently. And I know I've been guilty of doing that. I've got 5 minutes to get out of the house, and I want to talk to someone at the same time. I need to brush my teeth and comb my hair and get myself out the door, get my boots on or whatever. So, yeah, just be conscious of that is not displaying quality conversation. Listening for feelings being expressed. observe body language, because body language is actually more powerful than words itself. So when I counsel long distance, because when Raven and I used to go to Mexico for 6 months, I counseled from Mexico to here because a lot of my clients didn't want me to stop counseling with them for 6 months. And what I would do is I would say, I will do it on condition that we do it with a video call, because I needed to watch the body language. And body language tells you so much. Refuse to interrupt. And that's a hard one for me sometimes. Because you know how you can get just so excited about the topic and you just want to jump in with it? Yeah. This book here, Conversation Ideas, The Love Talk Starters, I have that book, and it's a great resource if you don't know, and I'm not saying this is just for men, okay? It's a great resource of ideas for conversation. And I like that there's benign topics, which I encourage people, if they're having communication issues, to start off with benign topics. Ones that, what's your favorite ice cream? If you had $1,000, what would you do with it? If you had $1 million, what would you do with it? Just things to get to know each other more without it being a needing to be right or wrong. If there's no right or wrong answer to that question, that's a benign topic. So quality activities. Isn't that cute? Yeah. Yeah, the teddy bear is going for a sleigh ride. Finding an activity that you all enjoy doing together. And here's a family who is going bike riding together. Or taking a class together is another option. Cooking a meal together. Or just keeping company. You can surprise them with 2 tickets to a movie or a concert. Money spent for a babysitter, and I know that no one here has got little kids, but it's part of my slides, so you have to have that. Okay, so money spent for a babysitter is money well spent, because and also to create the time for each other. Free up that person's time. Help them by doing something that they can. They don't have to do everything all by themselves. And here this young boy is freeing up his mommy's time by doing the dishes for her. So the next love language, receiving gifts. This one here I scored 0 on. So you can understand that if my mother's love language was gifts and I scored 0 on it, of why I didn't feel loved, and being married to a man whose love language was also gifts, I was probably one of the most spoiled wives around, because we both worked full time. We both had we didn't have any lack of money, and so anything I even hinted that I wanted, he would go out and buy it, and I was just going I wasn't feeling loved, and because it was not my love language. So isn't that odd that there's a lot of people, okay, that gifts is not their love language, and what do men get taught to do? To give gifts. Any wonder why not everyone is getting the reaction that they wanted from it? It is a visual symbol of love. So they can be picked or they can be bought. And even though it was not my love language even one tiniest bit, I did appreciate when Raven would go out and pick flowers for me and bring them home. And what he would do is, he worked in Victoria and we lived in Souk, which is about a 45-minute drive between the two. And in the middle of the day, or getting close to the time that he was going to come home, there's one area in Victoria that's got a man-made mound, and at the top of that, he knew, because you can't see it from the highway, but he knew that at the top of there was daffodils growing. And so what he would do is he'd pull the van off of the highway, he'd go across, climb up the hill, pick all these daffodils, come back down, go to a gas station, get some wet paper towels, wrap them up so that he would stay fresh till he got home, and then come home and give them to me. So why would a person whose love language is not gifts, why would it mean so much to me? Any ideas? He took the time to do it. I knew that he was thinking about me that whole time. And I often said, I don't want a dozen red roses because they mean zip to me. But that means a lot to me. Because I knew that he was doing it out of his love. And I knew that he was doing it because he had me on his mind. So they can be made. And I'm thinking about Brenda making all the Barbie clothes down in Arizona right now. And yeah, my mom was an avid sewer, and so that was a way that she was showing her love, was that not only would she buy me clothes for my Barbie dolls, but every so often she would come up with all these clothes that she had sewn for my dolls. Or they can be purchased, or they can be found, or it can be a gift of self, the physical presence in a time of crisis. So if you're in a time of crisis and someone is physically there for you, that's also a gift of So here's some gift ideas. There's the 12 days of birthday or anniversary gifts. Well, see, so in those 14 days, Brian, you could be giving her gifts, and then when it hits his birthday.
Well, his is right before Christmas.
Yes.
The day before Christmas, and mine is just after New Year's.
Oh, okay. Okay, so yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is. So I don't have to send you these slides, is that right? It can be unexpected gifts. And I love getting those. Gifts of a day to do as they please. That can also be a gift. Of just freeing up their time and just saying, hey, go do whatever you want to do for the day. Just as long as their love language is not quality time. A collection of photos you've taken up for them. You can create a picture for them. You can arrange a surprise birthday party for them. This particular, there's a gentleman here in the picture, and I think he was turning 50. He was homeless, and we took him into our home when we lived in Souk, and he had never had a birthday party in his life. And so myself and the church, we got together and we threw him a birthday party at our house. And he just was so excited. And because it meant so much to him about that. You can hide a lot of small gifts with notes for clues. And my mom did that, you know. That was her way of expressing her love. You know, when 10 speeds came out, for you who are around my age, okay? I know you guys are younger. Okay, okay. But you know, when 10 speeds came out, all my friends were given 10 speeds, and my parents were not of that same mindset. So for my birthday, they knew that my favorite color was purple, which it still is. And they bought me a purple 10 speed, and for my birthday, they hid it in the neighborhood, and gave me all these notes, and each time, like a note, and then I'd go to that spot, and then there'd be another clue, and then another spot, and it'd be another clue, and until it got me to where my present was. And it was a lot of fun. You can make up some gift certificates for services, and that can be, if it's, for a spouse, it can be 1 hour of a massage from your spouse. It can be, five, what do you call it? 5 times of doing something for them. Like, you could just do up things that they can redeem at any point that they want to. She goes, Nadia's thinking, what can I have? So the next one is acts of service. Being brought breakfast in bed, right? Mowing the grass for a person is acts of service. Taking out the garbage for the person is acts of service. Raven's love language was acts of service and physical touch. And because it wasn't my love language, we started having a joke between us. And what that was he would take the garbage out, and as he's going out the door, he goes, I'm doing this because I love you. Or I'm washing the dishes because I love you. So you can do washing the dishes, setting the table, painting a fence for the person, painting a bedroom or an office, fixing something for them, vacuuming, changing the baby's diapers. That's really a act of service, right? Cooking a meal for them. And if done with a positive spirit, they're indeed expressions of love. So, acts of service, how would it be if it was not done as an expression, with a positive spirit? If it's not done with a positive spirit. Like, just say that your love language is acts of service. And I know it, and I want to, not that I want to. That is like going, okay, in order to make this relationship work, I have to do this. And so, okay, let me think now. Acts of service. Okay, I'm gonna do these dishes for this person. I don't want to do them, but I'm gonna do them anyway. How loved would that person feel? They're not, right? Because it's not done with a positive spirit. Yep.
This one here reminds me of a book I read of, can't think of the guy's name, I can see his face. He's a professional football coach
Okay.
for the Indianapolis Colts. And Sunday was the NFC championship game that he was hosting. And he was the head football coach of the Indianapolis Colts. His wife was away. And
Just because I'm not going to be able to remember all that.
basically, what I'm saying is that acts of service, that reminds me of a book by, can't think of the guy's name. He's a black football coach for the Indianapolis Colts. And Sunday they were playing in the AFC Championship game. And Friday morning, he says, okay, fine, come noon. He says, okay, everybody's released. You guys know what you're doing. He went home, and his wife was gone for 2 weeks. And he went home and cleaned the house, and then went and picked her up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Thank you. Yes, that's really sweet. And I love watching videos. Sometimes I see them come across my Facebook page of an elderly couple, and you see that the wife had been away and the man is waiting for his wife at the airport, and you can see of how excited he is, and he's like a teenager holding a bouquet of flowers and a box of chocolates because he can't wait to see his wife when she comes. And it's just seeing of how different people express their love towards each other. So if your wife or your spouse is rushed in the morning, this could be either way. Look to see what you can do to help them out. So let's just say with you, Natalie, and Brian, I know you leave earlier than Brian needs to, is that right? So if your love language was acts of service, then Brian could do some things to help make your life easier before you leave. One of them would be packing a lunch for a person, filling up their water bottle for them, putting on coffee or making them a cup of tea to go. And then there's physical touch. So physical touch is holding hands while you pray, hand on the shoulder, my favorite, cuddling. Was that?
Is it the bear theme again?
He got me a bear last night, so.
She probably got her teddy bear, so.
Well, you know what? I was in No Frills and I saw the teddy bears and I thought of you. I thought of you.
So the theme continues.
The theme continues. Hugs, kisses, even Eskimo kisses. I do that with some of my grandchildren. Kissing the top of their head while they're reading. Making a point to kiss and hug when you awaken, as well as leaving the home. I don't think that, and upon returning. Okay. I'm not demanding, you know. And before going to bed.
Seems to be a theme there, too.
What's the theme that you see there, Brad?
Lots of attention.
A physical touch, yeah. Because this one is physical touch. And, yeah. If it's your love language, it means a huge amount. Stroking their hair. And that was the one thing that my mom did do, but I didn't recognize it because it was so sporadic. And that's the thing, is that your love language needs to be consistently expressed, not once a month or once every year or whatever. It's not going to speak anything. And she would stroke my hair if I was sick. And as a child, I was very sick, as I expressed yesterday. And I know, Brian, you didn't hear that, but I was talking about when I was diagnosed with cancer at the age of 6. And so, because I was so sick during those younger years, there was one thing that she would do, is she would sit on my bed and stroke my hair. And then, but that would be the extent of the affection. Touching the tip of the nose. Oh. Playing footsies. Getting a foot massage. This was my my massage therapist in Zug. Getting a back massage. Writing short love messages on their back. And of course, sexual intercourse. A lot of times when people think of about the love language, physical touch, that's what they tend to think, that that's all it is. But it's not. It's way, way more than that. Because, and then tactile gifts. This was my son, the first present he ever bought me with his own money. He knew that my favorite animal is Bengal tigers. And that he bought me this gift and I still have it, and it's still in excellent shape. But it meant a lot to me because I liked the touch of it. So are couples' love languages always the same? Or can they be different than those whom they love? Any idea?
They're gonna be different.
They can be
Family
different.
members are different than your spouse, and friends are different.
They can be different and they can be the same. So there's really, it doesn't make a difference. All it makes a difference with is if it's not your love language, then you need to consciously do it. Whereas if it is already your love language, it automatically flows. So this here is, just looking to see, this was my love language, as you see there. A, which is words of affirmation, and E, which is physical touch. This is proof that I'm bilingual, okay? And take a look at C. Guess which one C is? C is receiving gifts, and I score a 0 on it. So that was mine. And this was Raven's. And you can see that acts of service are very, very, like it's just like one score below. But he also had physical touch and words of affirmation. And this is just showing a couple of how they can be close or how they can be totally different from each other. This one here was, just looking to see here. Yeah, this was one couple that I was working with. And so you see that C, which is gifts, she scored 11 and he scored 2. So guess what he was accusing her of? Being a materialistic. He wasn't seeing her heart. And she scored under physical touch 0, and he scored 7. So guess where the rift was happening there? And I've done many workshops. I've done short ones where it's I only had like 20 minutes to talk, and I've had people do a very short physical love language test. And I had a person say to me, "What happens, Donna, if you score 0 on physical touch?" And I just looked at her and I smiled because I knew why. I didn't know the person, but I knew why. And it's usually because they've been sexually abused. So that's where that can come in to being that a person does not want to be touched at all. And it can go the exact opposite. So our experiences in life can affect our love languages as well. Often our deepest hurts speak volumes of our love languages. And that's what I was referring to. The things that have hurt us the most can either be a 0 or it can be a high number. And so taking a look at that, why might I have scored 0 on gifts? The reason why I scored 0 on gifts is because that was the way that my mom was attempting to show her love. And because everything else was showing me that she didn't love me, and I wasn't, and it was a very dysfunctional household with her, not with my dad, but with her, that I didn't want to have anything to do with it. So that's how our hurts can sometimes affect them. So whatever hurts you the most is if the only touch was sexual. Another one could be the spouse not spending time with you. Another one is a spouse seldom giving you a gift. a spouse using critical, judgmental words, and a spouse not helping around the house. Those things can hurt a person if it happens to be your love language. If it's not your love language, it probably just rolls right off of you. It's like, no problem. But if it is your love language, it will hurt. So what happens if your spouse's love language is something that does not come naturally? Then what? Great. When an action does not come naturally, it is greater expression of love, because they have to consciously do it. My Spanish is minimal. It gets me by in Mexico, but that's about it. So when I go uptown in Mexico and they know that I don't speak fluently Spanish, but they see me trying, and they laugh sometimes at my pronunciation, but they do see me trying, it means a lot to them because I'm trying. I may not do it perfectly, but I'm trying. And that's the same thing with this love language, is that if it's not your fluent language, if it's not the language you were born with, trying is a huge expression of love. Love is something that you do for someone else, and it's not for yourself. And that only comes when you have come to the place where your love cup is filled, you can give from that. If your love cup is dry, bone dry, it's hard to give, right? I always say you can't give from an empty cup. It's the same thing with the love languages. If you're not feeling loved, it's pretty hard to be speaking it to the other person. So what do you do with a couple where they are both not feeling loved, so their love cups are so dry they can't give to the other person? What do you do? How do you get off that merry-go-round? At least one of the people needs to start, whoever has the most amount of energy, needs to start doing a few things to help build up the other person's cup. And I had a couple come to me once, and actually I've had a few of these, where couples have come and their love cups are definitely bone dry. And I could see who was most motivated to make the marriage work. And so their assignment was, for this next week, I want you to do this, 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 and this to show your love to this person. And 99% of the time, their reaction is, but what about me? And I go, it's okay, don't worry, your time will come. And then a week later, they come back in holding hands. And she says to me, or he says to me, whoever was most motivated, yeah, the other person started to express their love to me in my way, partway through the week. And that's because love begets love. So your best instructor is your spouse. Ask them what communicates love to them. And be it that, as I've given you different examples, not all of them will speak the same to that person of that love language. Some will speak higher. So find out, especially if your cups are dry, find out quickly what one's the most, the most bang for your buck type of thing. And then that way you can help them to feel loved and cared about. So what about kids? They have 5 love languages too, and they're the exact same as ours. This was my son's, this is my son's love language in black. and mine, no, other way around. The black was myself, and the blue was my son's. Yes, that's what it was, because I did these a long time ago. I wanted to know what my kids' love language was because I wanted to speak it to them fluently. I wanted them to know of how much I loved. I liken it to taking what's in your heart and getting it communicated all the way to the other person's heart. And so I did this with my son to find out what his love language was, and it really puzzles me because you can see here number 9 under the B, which is quality time, was his love language. And it did not make sense to me at all. I thought he must have not answered it correct or not correctly. Honestly. Because whenever I would go, my son's a very bright person, and anytime I would go over there, he would be on his computer, and I could sit there for hours and he wouldn't say hardly anything. So I decided to do a test. I decided just to figure out, is this true or not? So I went there, and he was sitting at his computer, and I went and I sat down on a chair beside him. And I just sat there. And I sat there. And I sat there. And all of a sudden, as he's working away on his computer, he started talking. And now I understood that, yes, I just needed to give him that space to show that I was going to be there. I wasn't going to be leaving. And now I consciously, when I go to Victoria, we always go and do something together. This last time it was for his birthday, and we went bowling together. And it was like, what do you want to do? It's your day. And that was what he chose to do. Go out for lunch and then go out for bowling. And this is myself and my daughter. And you can see that I'm a 0 at gifts, but she's at a 5. So I need to keep that part in mind. Her highest, again, is quality time. And so whenever I go to Victoria, I always make sure that I keep a space free for her and I just to hang out and do something together. But then you take a look at E, physical touch. She's not a huggy person. So she's not a 0, but she's not as high as her mom. And so I know that her hug hello and her hug goodbye is about the extent that I'm going to get. Okay. So how to discover your child's love languages? First of all, when you can observe them. I do this with my grandkids now as I watch them. And I can usually pick up by what they do naturally or what their love language is. And when you really get to know all 5 love languages very well, you can usually pick it up. A child of, if they're going and picking you flowers, or if they are always wanting to be in the kitchen helping you or whatever, you get to know that that's part of who they are. You can listen to their requests because kids will usually ask for something that's the request. I've got one grandchild whose love language is definitely physical touch, and they always want to cuddle. And I'm totally good for that. So, and also listen to their complaints. And this also goes with adults. What a person asks for and what they complain about also gives you a key into their love language. So the last thing is, let's do a review. What's the 5 love languages? Words of affirmation, yep. Quality time, yes. Receiving gifts. Acts of service. And physical touch. You got a star. I saw. But I wasn't going to call you on it, Z. So now we're going to have a test. What love language might these pictures be? Physical touch, yes. This one? Gifts, yes, gifts. This one? Gifts. This one? Yep, gifts. He's giving her flowers. Yep, it's gifts. This one here, it might be hard to see. It's nope. Nope. This one here, physical touch. They're holding hands. This one here, quality time. Yes. And which dialect? Not Spanish. It is quality activity, right? There's quality time and quality activity. This one here, gifts. This one here, acts of service. Yes, you guys are getting it. This one here, acts of service. Yes. This one. It could be a gift and it could be acts of service. I think that I'm going to go with its acts of service because he's actually making, or like fixing something it looks like. And I could be wrong. This one here, physical touch. This one here, sorry, acts of service, is that what you said? I'm just looking to see, what is it? No, it is words of affirmation. If you take a look at the smile on her face as she's reading something. Okay. This one here, physical touch. This one here, gifts. Yeah. This one here, physical touch. And then the very last question. How can we reach out to others in our community through our love language? Or through their love language, which speaks more? So it's not a question you have to answer, just a food for thought. And then what we're going to do, pretty good timing, you guys. It's 12:15. It's lunchtime. So we're going to have a lunch break. Oh. Okay, so it's only 11. We're going to have an early lunch. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a break. Oh, before we go, I'm going to speak about the second test. The one that says our motivational gifts. And maybe you can also, if you like, you can just take this time before, or you can do it while you're eating, your choice. I'm going to explain about how to do this test accurately. It's called our motivational gifts. Did you get one, Mary? Okay, let me give you one here. Okay, I'll give it to you in a second. I'm just going to explain how to do it first of all. For each number, okay, so like we're looking at number 1, and it says, would you rather spend time interceding for others or entertaining house guests? You have to choose, you have to choose one of the two. So circle one of the two. If you don't want either, choose the one. If you had to have one, you would have that one. If you want both of them, no, only one. Okay, so that's how you do it, and then after you've gone through, you can add up the letters of how many P's you have, how many S's, how many T's, E's, G's. So yeah, this is a very intense one. So take your time. You can either maybe I'll take a vote so that way we can tell people online of how long until we're going to start the thing. Do you guys want to do this while you're eating, or do you want to do it and then eat? You want to do it and then eat? Okay. So it's 11:15. Should we say that 1 o'clock? start again? Do you think that, or you 12:30? Yeah, you guys don't need much time to eat because you don't have to prepare food. Okay, so we will resume at what time? 12:30. Okay. Hello? Yes, there. Okay, we're going to get started again. We're going to get started now on the last of this marathon. And this section is called Spiritual Gifts. And for anyone who has not heard in the room or anyone online who's not heard, when you add up all of the numbers on the last sheet, you should have 63. If not, you've missed something.
We kept coming up with 62 for both of us.
Yeah, it's weird.
Okay, we'll,
Anyway,
yeah, if you're really tied on two top ones, then we need to look at it now. If you're not, then we can find it later.
we've circled one of each, so it's bizarre that we've come up with.
Yeah, you might have just not counted something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm back counting.
Yeah. Okay, so spiritual gifts. James 1:17 says, "Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above and cometh from the Father of lights." So who gives us these gifts? God. The Bible talks about 3 types of spiritual gifts that God gives us. There's the ministry gifts found in Ephesians 4:11. And on those ones are listed apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers. How many of you can relate to one of those? Okay, that's good. But we're not going to talk about those ones today. Okay. So how many of you can see yourself described in one of these, which is called the manifestation gifts found in 1 Corinthians 12:7-10, which are messenger of wisdom, messenger of knowledge, wonder-working faith, gift of healing, working of miracles, prophetic insight, discernment of true or false spirits, various kinds of unknown tongues, interpretations of those tongues. How many of you can relate to them? Natalie looks really puzzled, like, what is that? Okay, don't worry, we're not going to talk about those ones today either.
Don't worry about that.
Okay, so who are these gifts meant to benefit? The ones that I just taught to.
Non-believers.
Or to the church members. Okay. How many can relate more to these gifts? None? Less? Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of hands going up with those ones. Okay. So how do we get these gifts? I'm going to go right on to the one that we're going to talk about today, called the motivational gifts. And that's found from Romans 12:6-8. And they are a perceiver or a prophet, a server, a teacher, an exhorter, or I like to call encourager, a giver or a contributor, an administrator or a superintendent, and the last one is compassion or mercy. So there's 7 of them. So the test you just did will tell us which one was for you. So what do you think might be the role of a perceiver? Okay, so a person who is sensing what your need is, okay? So they're perceiving what you need, right? That's right. So they're looking below the surface because they get a sense that this is what, they might be also called a very intuitive person. So someone that perceives what the person is really needing. They perceive the will of God and then to communicate it. What's the role of a server? Any idea? It's in the word. Is to serve, yeah, to serve. To reach out and do practical things for others, like Dean. He's helped me radically. Okay? So that is the gift of a server. What is the role of a teacher? To teach. You guys are getting it. You're catching on. Now this one I think really, really applies to you, Natalie, is to study and research. Yeah. And then share their truth with others. Yeah. So if you scored high in that one, and we'll see, that would be why you were attracted to your original career, right? What's the role of an exhorter / encourager? Is to encourage people. To encourage others to live fully the life that God designed them to live. Does that sound familiar to the first part of the workshop yesterday? Or actually, during the sermon time yesterday, I talked about what was it that was my passion. It's almost word for word. Was to encourage people to become fully, express who they were meant to be. Thus, this workshop was designed for. So what's the role of a giver? To give. Yeah. You got it. To give of their time, to give of their talent, to give of finances, to help others. And it doesn't mean that it's one or the other. I mean it's not doesn't mean that it's all of them. It can be one of the three. Whatever it is that you feel inspired to be giving, and maybe at that particular moment in time. What's the role of an administrator? What was that? To tell everybody what to do. Okay. Right, Dean. Okay, to organize, lead, and direct. And that's where a good supervisor makes, right? What is the role of a compassion person? To show love, care, and compassion to those in need. And so that's where people who work at our warming center, usually they have that as part of their gifts because they have a heart for that, which I see very strongly in yourself, Diane. So can you relate to these gifts more so than the other ones? Okay, good. Whew. You're in the right workshop. Okay, so which is the best to be? A perceiver, a server, a teacher, an exhorter, a giver, an administrator, or a compassion person? Which one's the best? They're all equally great. They're important because, as I talked about yesterday, we cannot all be hands. We don't need everyone just to be hands. We need speakers. We need people to use other parts of the body, and that's the same with our gifts. And this is so important to recognize because when you honor the different people have different gifts, then you don't try and fit other people into a box that they don't belong in. And you can use people for how they were created in the first place. So if you take a look at the first letter of every one of these, pull out your test. Okay? So now you can write it on the back of your paper, or not on the back of your paper, but you can write it next to the letters. I'll give you a moment to do that. So how many scored the highest in P, a perceiver? Is there anyone that scored the highest as a perceiver? How many scored the highest as a server? One, two. Who else? Who else is a server? Okay.
I have two that are the same number.
Perfect. You're bilingual. How many scored the highest as a teacher? Wow, great. We've got some teachers. Okay. How about an exhorter or an encourager? How many scored highest in that?
The same with the teacher.
Okay. So then you would have been an excellent teacher because you would have encouraged your students. And what about giver? How many scored highest as a giver? One? Yeah. Okay.
She's got two of the same too.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
She's got a server and giver.
Yep.
And that's got you bang on. That's got you bang on. A server and a giver.
Yeah. How many scored the highest as an administrator? Okay. You did? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Is that an A? You scored highest in the A? Okay. So the next one is compassion, the C. How many scored highest on the C? Okay. I see that with you guys. So, what I'm going to ask now, there was no one here that was a perceiver. The servers, can you stand up, please? Okay, servers, can you come down here, please? Teachers, who are the teachers? Okay, can you go to the back there with Brian? That's okay. See, you're going to decide who you want to be friends with, eh? Yeah. Okay. You belong right there. Okay. Exhorter or encourager. How many are encouragers? Just me? Okay. How about givers? How many are givers? Okay, so remind me to give you guys both. Okay. How about administrators? You scored high in 4. Like, what was the what was the number one server? Okay. And compassion? Okay. So you guys stay there, and you know that you're dealing with them too. Okay. You might have to. Actually, Dean, would you mind changing places with Diane so that she can flip back and forth between the two, please? Thanks.
Are you coming to see me?
So what is the purpose that God has given us these gifts? Any idea? Why would He give you spiritual gifts? So that we can express who He created us to be in a way that honors who He made us. And so when you take all the gifts that all the different areas that we've been talking about yesterday and today, it makes up you. So I'm going to just, we're going to say, what way can God use these gifts that He's given to you? And I'm going to give you each a handout and share them. And what I'd like you to do is brainstorm with each other of which one speaks to your heart. And I love doing this for people who haven't started the workforce yet. So I don't think that applies to anybody here. But it also applies to doing what you were born to be doing. Okay? So perceivers, there is no perceivers. Givers, that's you guys. So compassion. Oops. Servers. All you servers. Okay, can you guys talk about that between you? Thanks. And administrators. Which wasn't there administrators? Who also scored on administrator? You did. Okay. Teachers.
We're the teachers.
You're the
The servers.
teachers. Okay.
Not that I shouldn't learn how to serve, but there we go.
Thank you. Okay. Servers. Your teacher. Okay, so you with them. Okay. Servers. Servers going once, twice. No servers. Your server. Yes, I thought so. Okay, so one of the things that I just want to bring to your attention, and I'm saying that for the people who are online as well, is that all of the descriptions for every section that we've been doing so far will be uploaded. They may not be uploaded yet. Okay. And I wanted to explain more for everyone in the room as well as people online is that when you are looking at the sheet that has your number one motivational gift, your spiritual gift, whatever was your number two, if it's listed here, like I'll give you an example. This particular one was for people who are compassion as their number one. If their number two highest score was as a perceiver, then there's also a section that when you zero in, that's even more focusing in on who you truly are. Or if your second one was as a server, a compassionate server, so then those particular ministry areas are really suits you really highly. Or if you are an exhorter or what's also called as an encourager. So if your compassion and encouraging is your second spiritual gift, then you go to that part. It just helps you to really zero in even further of what it is that is for your particular spiritual gift. And we're just going to finish off here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to encourage you to make sure that you put all of your scores for everything onto the what's it called? The master sheet that you had from yesterday, so that way you have a real good look at what have you learned about yourself. And then we're going to discuss that. So I'm going to give you time to do that, and then we'll come back to that. Okay, so how was that to figure out your spiritual gifts? Did it make sense to you? So, what I have had you do in the meantime after that is to take what I call your master sheet, which is the one that says, "Who am I?" on it, and make sure that you fill in all the different areas of it. So when it comes down to the part that says, I predominantly use the quadrant of my brain, which is called the something quadrant, that is from the one that has the numbers at the top. That's your quadrant of your brain. And if it is 1, you are a left upper quadrant. If you are number 2, you are a left lower quadrant. If you're number 3, you're a right upper quadrant. And if you're 4, you're a right lower quadrant. Then if you go to the next question on there is the SMCP. If you're an S, you are a sanguine. And that's because if you have to do it, you want to have fun. If you're an M, you're in melancholy. And if with that, if it's worth doing right. And if you're a C, you're a choleric. And then for you, it's like, let's just get moving and get it done. They tend to be more bossy. Okay, and if you're a P, you're a phlegmatic, and your whole focus is let's just get along. Okay, you want peace at any cost. So you want to take that answer and put it on your "Who am I" sheet. And then the very last one that we did yesterday was your Western element personality. And whether you're a fire, air, water, or earth, that tells you what part that you might have challenges with your health. And so you put that down. If you know from the handout yesterday which one it was that where your weakness is in your health, write that down. If not, I've got handouts for those copies from yesterday. And if you're online, you can download it off of the internet as well. Then we went on to your love language, which says, I feel the most loved, appreciated, and cherished when people speak my love language of. Write that down in that section. And then if you go over to the next page, and it has what your motivational spiritual gifts are, write down your first, your second, and your third highest scores in that order. Go back to the first page, and it says at the bottom, the common denominator that I have seen today of the Who Am I workshop testing is, now only you can answer this, there's no right or wrong answer, of what did you find, what did you discover, was there anything that you saw was very common between your personality style and your love language, or what quadrant of the brain you use more predominantly? Did you find yesterday when we got together with each other, did you find that you hung out with the same group sometimes? And who were in the same group with you? So that tells you that the people who were in a similar group more than once, that you have a lot in common with each other. Okay. At the end of that, what we discussed in the very end just now was how can you take who you are and use it to bless other people. And that's was the handout that I gave it that is also going to be online. So what you would fill in under I believe that God has called me to use these talents, gifts, and personalities by, you can fill that in of anything that you thought of, or if you want to relook at the list, this does not mean that you have to do something for a church. It just means how do you use you to reach out to people and to reach out to those you care about in a way that is uniquely authentic of who you are, not trying to fit into someone else's puzzle. And then there's the question is, I would be good at this because, and again, that's a very thought-provoking question. But like Natalie, we saw some things that were very, very prevalent that I already knew about you. And so it gives us the information that that's where we need to honor that part of who we are. And if you're no longer doing that, how can you use who you are in another way? Because remember yesterday I was talking about feeling fulfilled, feeling at peace. We only get that when we're living in our element, when we're living in who we truly are as a person. So it's those suggestions that were on the pages might give you a piece of information that you're going, I never thought of that. And when I work with people with their career choices, I always say to them, what was the common denominator between what you wanted to be as a child, what you wanted to be when you grew up, like when you were graduating from high school, and what type of careers did you choose? And then taking a look at your personality, that all makes up. And now how can you take that and use it? Like for myself, okay? I wanted to be a teacher when I graduated from high school. I wanted to be a counselor. How did I go about it now as an adult? How many of you know that I teach? Obviously here in the workshop, right? And I use my counseling skills, and I use the spiritual gift of encourager so that I can use that just encouraging my next door neighbor, encouraging people in my groups. God made you uniquely awesome. And so just take a look at all those things and ask yourself, how can I use this? And it doesn't have to be pigeonholed into what it sounds like. It might be that you're helping out with the warming, what's it called? The warming center here. Or it might be that you're baking bread for your next door neighbor. It could be anything. But you will feel the most fulfilled if you're doing what it is that you were called to do in the first place. And that's my desire for you, is to be fully expressing who you were designed to be in the first place. So thank you everyone for coming. And you guys have gone through this marathon, so congratulations. And we'll go from there.